Hi there Libra, thank you for joining me for your monthly forecast for January, and welcome to the new year. A year which begins with the focus on your communicational sector very sharp, one which is going to go on all of this year, and there's going to be opportunities to really get your points of view across, to be very persuasive, to be alluring, but also to learn some new ideas. And all of this comes from the role of Saturn, the planet of structure. But of course, you may know that Saturn can be about restriction too. So choosing your words carefully and being diplomatic, well, they're not areas that you're unaware of. This is something that you have a natural gift for. And as this new year begins, your ruling planet Venus is giving you particular assistance in terms of articulating yourself in a very nuanced and very subtle way. So if you do have some important conversations this month, she is certainly going to help you. And in fact is particularly important because of two key retrogrades. You probably know that Mercury retrograde can really be a game changer, and certainly it can affect travel, distribution, technology, personal conversations and understandings. And when the retrograde happens, which is 3 times a year, all sorts of mischief can occur. And although Mercury moves into a really positive part of your scope on the 2nd, by the 5th she slams on the brakes, and by the 10th is back in a much more thoughtful part of your horoscope. So when it comes to your emotional communication, you are going to need to take care in January. You may also find yourself thinking very carefully about where you live and who with. Jupiter, the planet of expansion, which is in a very psychological part of your scope, is also going to be going into retrograde from the 8th. So I do feel, although there is this potential to communicate, you could find yourself actually wanting to reflect, read, absorb information, and perhaps have the chance to just think about things that you want in terms of your emotional foundations. Now, none of that would be a surprise to you in a way, because the last few years has been quite tense in terms of where you live, how you live there, and who with. Your own inner emotional world has been turbulent at times, and it can be, unfortunately, again in January, due to the charged energy between Uranus and Pluto, which has been at the root of a lot of the mischief we've all been on the end of. But later in this month, as Mercury twists backwards into Capricorn, the last 2 weeks, it too is going to get caught up in this as well. And I do feel that if there are family tensions, or there's someone around you that's rather unpredictable in their approach, or you yourself find it hard to make your mind up about exactly what you want from your closest personal relationships, then there may be times this month when you do have to do some real thinking, real careful analysis. But you don't want to reach a situation like you can do sometimes where you're thinking but find it very difficult to take action. Now Mars, the planet of action, moves on the 4th into a very sensual part of your horoscope. And if you do like the good things in life, and it's a very rare Libra that doesn't, the chances are you could be hitting the January sales. But make sure that you're not feeding any emotional weaknesses or unhappinesses by splashing out money you can't afford. Mars could make you more aggressive and a little bit more reckless about your budget. But he does forge from the 11th to the 25th a really sweet link with Neptune. And there is an opportunity for Librans to apply for jobs or work in sectors which help people, but in turn receive some kind of benefits. And of course that comes through wages or self-satisfaction. That is possible. And Venus, your ruler, does go side by side with Saturn at the start of week 2. And that can cause some very intense discussions. And if a relationship is not really working very well, or someone feels that you're not making enough effort to really be in contact with them and engage with them, well, that could be a real touch and go moment. The tie could even come to a complete and rather abrupt end. But as Venus forges a gorgeous link with Uranus later that week, there's also possibilities for new beginnings around relationships. And the way this can come about can be very unexpected, and in a situation that you could just not possibly predict. Now the Sun is obviously moving through Capricorn at the start of the year, as it always does, and that's going to be forging the new moon on the 11th. Generally that's a good thing, but this one is squaring up with Uranus too. So I just feel that your relationships, or a close relationship, either with a family member or someone that you're perhaps seeing, is going to be a very important consideration this month. There's going to be a lot of thinking to be done about exactly what you want and what your next steps will be. Now, once Mercury goes into forwards motions on the 25th, I think you can start to make sense of it more. But the Sun moving into your sister air sign of Aquarius on the 21st can also give you a real boost of energy. However, the full moon on the 23rd does ask you, are you getting the balance right between your social situation in terms of your friendships and perhaps more personal considerations? If something is tipped up and you're spending too much doing one or the other, that may need a rebalancing. But it is going to be important to stay attuned to your emotions, but also be conscious that communication is not a one-way street. It's been a real pleasure being with you. Thank you for joining me. Good luck and goodbye for now.